There are places on Earth that are not finished, places where the land itself is a story being written in real time, a narrative of fire and water, of creation born from immense, indifferent violence. This is not a country in the way we understand borders and nations, but a geological event, an archipelago of more than 17,000 islands rising from the meeting point of 2 oceans and 3 continental plates. It is a realm forged in the planet's deepest heat, a process that began millions of years ago and has never paused, not for a single moment. To understand this place, you cannot begin with a map, for any map is merely a snapshot of a world in motion, a temporary agreement with a landscape that is fundamentally unstable. You must begin with the forces that drew the map in the first place, with the slow, inexorable collision of worlds that pushed this nation, island by island, out of the sea. Here, the planet's raw, creative energy is not a memory from a distant past. It is a present, tangible reality. It is the tremor in the ground, the smoke on the horizon, the impossible green that follows the ash. This is Indonesia, the largest island nation on Earth, a crescent of land scattered across a distance wider than a continent. Its existence is an answer to a single, powerful question. What happens when the very crust of the planet is pulled apart and crushed together at the same time? The answer is written in the smoke of 130 active volcanoes, each a chimney connecting our world to the molten heart of the planet, a direct conduit to the engine of planetary change. It is carved into the deepest oceanic trenches on the globe, abyssal voids where the seafloor is consumed, pulled back into the mantle from which it came, and it echoes in the silence of rainforests and coral reefs that hold a concentration of life so dense, so varied, it represents a significant portion of all life on Earth, a living library of evolutionary possibility. This is the story of how fire and water built a world, a journey into the hidden architecture of the planet, to witness the Earth in the slow, deliberate, and unending act of creating itself. The story of these islands begins with an act of disappearance, a slow surrender that takes place in absolute darkness, miles beneath the ocean's surface. Here, the dense Indo-Australian plate, heavy with the cold of the deep sea and burdened by the weight of the water above it, slides under the lighter Eurasian plate. It is a descent into the Earth's mantle at a rate of a few centimeters per year, a movement no faster than the growth of a human fingernail. Yet its consequences are monumental, shaping continents and defining the face of the planet. As the plate descends into the asthenosphere, a region of superheated, semi-molten rock, the pressure becomes unimaginable and the temperature rises to over 1,000 degrees Celsius. Water, trapped for eons within the minerals of the oceanic crust, is cooked out. This infusion of superheated water, or hydrous fluid, rises into the mantle wedge above the subducting slab. It acts as a flux, dramatically lowering the melting point of the surrounding rock. A process of transformation begins. Solid stone liquefies, becoming magma, a substance lighter and more buoyant than the solid mantle around it. It rises, seeking release, pooling in vast chambers miles below the surface, a subterranean reservoir of planetary energy, waiting. It finds its escape in a chain of volcanic vents that have punctured the overriding plate, forming the very spine of this nation. From Sumatra, through Java, and across the Lesser Sunda Islands, this process has built a continuous line of fire, a physical manifestation of the planet's internal heat engine. Each volcano is a testament to the world below, a place where the destruction of one tectonic plate becomes the raw material for the creation of another. These architects of fire are not uniform in their nature. They possess distinct personalities, each speaking a different dialect of the Earth's geological language. Some, like Bromo, breathe a constant sulfurous breath from a fractured caldera, a steady, almost gentle reminder of the heat below. Others, like the stunning Aegean, hold a lake of pure turquoise acid in their crater, the world's largest, a beautiful and lethal chemical cauldron. And then there are those like Merapi, the mountain of fire, restless and violent, building pressure over decades before releasing it in devastating pyroclastic flows, incandescent clouds of ash and gas that move faster than a hurricane and are hotter than an oven. These volcanoes are the creators of the very land people live on, and simultaneously, the greatest threat to that existence. This duality is the central truth of life in the archipelago. But some have spoken with a voice that changed the world. In 1815, on the island of Sumbawa, Mount Tambora erupted with a force 1,000 times greater than Krakatoa, the most powerful eruption in recorded human history. It ejected so much ash and sulfur into the stratosphere that it veiled the sun, forming a global aerosol blanket that lowered planetary temperatures by several degrees. The result was the year without a summer across Europe and North America. Crops failed, frost appeared in August, and famine spread across the northern hemisphere. It was a stark lesson in the planet's interconnectedness, a demonstration that the geology of this one archipelago is not a local affair. The pulse of the Earth beats strongest here, and its rhythm is felt, sometimes catastrophically, across the entire globe. Nowhere is this cycle of creation and destruction more visible, more immediate, than in the Sunda Strait. In 1883, Krakatoa announced its power in an eruption so violent its sound waves circled the planet multiple times, the loudest sound ever recorded. The island tore itself apart, collapsing into a submarine caldera and unleashing a wave that reached heights of over 100 feet, erasing whole coastlines and claiming tens of thousands of lives. It was an act of geologic erasure, a place on the map wiped clean. Yet, in the decades that followed, something began to stir in the submerged crater. A new cone, fueled by the same magma chamber, pushed its way above the waves, built from the ash and lava of its predecessor. They call it Anak Krakatau, the child of Krakatoa. It is a living island, growing with each eruption, a direct and constant reminder that in this archipelago, the end of one world is merely the foundation for the next. We watch it grow, collapse, and grow again, a laboratory of island formation playing out in human time. The land is not a permanent fixture, but a temporary expression of the planet's internal energy, a fleeting form given to the fire below. If fire is the architect of this nation, then water is its sculptor and its lifeblood. The islands, once raised from the deep, are now defined by the sea that surrounds them, their coastlines carved by its waves, their climates dictated by its temperature. But this is not a single, passive ocean. It is a place of passage, a conduit for one of the most significant ocean currents on Earth. The Indonesian throughflow is a river of warm water within the ocean, a constant massive transfer of energy from the Pacific to the Indian Ocean. Driven by a slight difference in sea level, the Pacific is, on average, a few centimeters higher than the Indian Ocean. This current pours through the deep, complex channels between the islands. The Makassar Strait, the Lombok Strait, the Banda Sea. These are not just names on a chart. They are the primary arteries of a global circulatory system. This flow of water, equivalent to dozens of Amazon rivers, acts as a critical valve, a global heat conveyor belt that regulates the climate not just of the region, but of the entire planet. It influences the El Niño Southern Oscillation, which in turn affects weather patterns from California to Africa. It is the warm heartbeat of the ocean, and it pulses directly through the center of this archipelago, shaping the temperature of the water, the patterns of the weather, and the distribution of life itself. The water here does more than just flow. It divides. Its power is not only in its movement, but in its memory, a memory etched into the seafloor itself. During the ice ages, when vast quantities of the world's water were locked into continental glaciers, sea levels fell by hundreds of feet. A vast land bridge known as the Sunda Shelf emerged, connecting the western islands of Sumatra, Java, and Borneo to the Asian mainland. This was not a string of islands, but a continuous expanse of savanna and forest, a lost world now submerged, which we call Sundaland. Great rivers, now drowned, flowed across these plains, and the ancestors of today's tigers, elephants, and orangutans walked from Asia into what would one day become these islands. But to the east, the water tells a different story. Deep oceanic trenches, carved by the same tectonic forces that build the volcanoes, created a permanent channel of water that never disappeared, even at the height of the Ice Age. This invisible barrier in the sea, first identified by the naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace, created two separate biological worlds. It is a frontier not drawn on any map, but etched into the very DNA of the islands, a line that separates the evolutionary story of Asia from the strange, isolated world of Australia and the islands caught in between, a region of biological transition known as Wallacea. To cross the Wallace Line is to travel between two distinct chapters of Earth's history, a journey of only a few miles that spans millions of years of evolutionary divergence. To the west lies the world of Asia, a biological realm defined by its long connection to the largest continent on Earth. The great rainforests of Borneo and Sumatra are home to orangutans, tigers, elephants, and rhinoceroses, placental mammals whose ancestors walked here when the sea was low. Their presence is a living memory of a time when these islands were not islands at all, but a peninsula of a larger continent. Their relatives are found in India, in China, in the forests of mainland Southeast Asia, but cross the deep water of the Lombok Strait, a channel that has persisted for millennia, and the world changes completely. The air becomes drier, the forests recede, the landscape grows harsher, starved of the heavy monsoonal rains that drench the western islands. The great Asian mammals disappear as if they had hit an invisible wall. In their place, life has followed a different evolutionary path, one defined by millions of years of isolation and a connection to a different continent entirely. It is one of the most abrupt and dramatic biogeographical boundaries on the planet, a silent testament to the power of a narrow strip of deep water to dictate the course of life. Here, on the dry, volcanic slopes of Komodo, lives a relic of an older time. The Komodo dragon, the world's largest lizard, is a creature that should not exist in the modern world. It is a survivor, a remnant of the megafauna that once roamed Australia, stranded here by the deep water that its ancestors could not cross. Its dominance is a product of isolation. With no large mammalian predators to challenge it, it became the apex predator of its own strange world, a kingdom of reptiles. Further north, on the island of Sulawesi, this isolation has resulted in an explosion of unique life. The island itself is a geological anomaly, formed from the collision of multiple smaller islands, creating a bizarre, orchid-like shape with deep bays and long peninsulas. This complex geography has created countless pockets of isolation, turning the island into an evolutionary laboratory. It is home to the babirusa, the pig with upward curving tusks that can grow back into its own skull, a seemingly bizarre adaptation whose purpose is still debated. It is home to the spectral tarsier, a nocturnal primate whose enormous eyes are larger than its brain, perfectly adapted for a life of hunting insects in the dark. Here, the maleo bird forgoes nesting and instead uses the geothermal heat of the volcanic soil to incubate its eggs, a direct link between the island's fiery origins and the continuation of life. These creatures are living proof of the power of water to divide and of isolation to create, allowing evolution to run its own separate, extraordinary, and sometimes baffling experiments. The same geological forces that created such division on land have fostered an unparalleled unity of life beneath the waves. Here, in the waters of eastern Indonesia, lies the heart of the Coral Triangle, the most biodiverse marine ecosystem on Earth. It is a world built from the convergence of powerful forces. The Indonesian throughflow, carrying the warm, nutrient-rich waters of the Pacific, collides with the deep, cool upwellings of the Indian Ocean. The volcanic islands, rich in minerals, constantly leach their life-giving elements into the sea, while their submerged slopes provide the perfect substrate for coral to anchor and grow. This confluence of factors has created the perfect conditions for life to flourish in an explosion of diversity. Raja Ampat is the epicenter of this underwater world, a place often called a species factory. A single reef here can contain more species of coral than the entire Caribbean Sea. Thousands of species of fish, many found nowhere else, find shelter and sustenance in these intricate structures. It is the sea's answer to the rainforest, a vertical city of life built by countless tiny organisms, coral polyps, over thousands of years. This is not a random collection of life, but a direct consequence of the archipelago's unique position as the gateway between two oceans, a crucible where marine evolution has reached its most complex and beautiful expression, a living testament to the creative power that emerges when different worlds meet. The fire that raises the land from the sea does not only destroy, it gives back. Over millennia, the ash from countless eruptions has settled upon the islands, breaking down into some of the most fertile soil on the planet. These soils, known as andosols, are young, dark, and rich in the essential minerals that plants need to thrive. This stands in stark contrast to the ancient, weathered, and nutrient-poor soils found in other great tropical rainforests like the Amazon. On Java and Sumatra, this volcanic inheritance, this gift of minerals brought up from the planet's core, has given rise to rainforests of staggering density and diversity. Life here is layered, a vertical world stretching from the dark, damp forest floor, where fungi and insects recycle fallen matter, to the high canopy, a universe in the sky, where most of the forest's residents live and die without ever touching the ground. It is a world of constant humidity and relentless growth, a biological machine fueled by equatorial sun and soil born of ash. The violence of the volcano over deep time becomes the foundation for an almost unimaginable abundance, a cycle of destruction and renewal that is the fundamental rhythm of the archipelago. This forest is the world of the orangutan, the person of the forest, whose solitary, contemplative existence is woven into the life of these trees, a life of slow movement and long memory. But the ultimate expression of this creative destruction lies in the heart of Sumatra. Lake Toba is not a lake. It is the caldera of a supervolcano that erupted 74,000 years ago, an event so powerful it ejected nearly 3,000 cubic kilometers of ash and rock into the atmosphere. It was an eruption on a scale that defies human comprehension. It triggered a global volcanic winter that lasted for years, blocking out sunlight and causing temperatures to plummet. Some scientists believe it created a genetic bottleneck in our own species, pushing early humanity to the brink of extinction, with perhaps only a few thousand individuals surviving worldwide. It was one of the greatest acts of destruction in the planet's recent history. Yet what it left behind is a vast, calm basin of fresh water, the largest volcanic lake on Earth, and a landscape renewed by a deep layer of fertile ash. In the center of the lake, the ground has pushed back up, a process of resurgence forming Samosir Island, an island within an island. The greatest cataclysm became a cradle for new life. The most profound scar on the land transformed into a place of tranquility and rebirth. At the far eastern edge of the archipelago, the story changes one last time. This is Papua, the western half of the island of New Guinea. Geologically, it is not part of the volcanic arc of Asia, but a piece of the Australian continent, crumpled and pushed upwards by the relentless collision with the Pacific Plate. This is not a land built by volcanoes erupting from below, but by the brute force of tectonic plates colliding head-on. This process, known as orogeny, has created the New Guinea Highlands, a central spine of mountains so high they hold glaciers on the equator, a paradox of ice and fire in the heart of the tropics. The island is a world unto itself, a place where the evolutionary stories of Asia and Australia finally meet and mingle, creating a biodiversity that is stranger and more spectacular than anywhere else in the archipelago. It is the final, most complex piece of the Indonesian puzzle, a land of impossible extremes where ice meets jungle and two continental histories of life have collided, mingled, and diverged in spectacular fashion. This is the home of the birds of paradise, whose feathers seem to contain colors from another dimension. Their elaborate courtship rituals, a form of living art sculpted by millennia of sexual selection in a world free from the major mammalian predators that dominate other forests. It is the home of the tree kangaroo, a marsupial whose ancestors were ground dwellers, that has, in an evolutionary reversal, returned to a life in the canopy, adapting to a three-dimensional world. It is home to hundreds of unique cultures and languages, a human diversity that mirrors the biological diversity fostered by the same isolating mountains and valleys. Papua represents a different kind of creation story, one of uplift and isolation, a testament to the sheer creative power of a planet in constant, violent motion. This long story of geological creation, written over eons in the language of rock and water, has now entered a new chapter, one measured in mere decades. The forces shaping these islands are no longer just fire and water. A new geological force has arrived, one capable of altering the climate, clearing the forests, and warming the seas at a speed the slow rhythm of evolution cannot match. The delicate balance that allowed these ecosystems to flourish, the predictable rains, the stable ocean temperatures, the unbroken expanse of the forests, is now being tested. The same isolation that created such unique life, that allowed for the evolution of the Komodo dragon and the birds of paradise, also makes it profoundly fragile, with nowhere else to go. The story of Indonesia's creation is not over, but its future narrative is being written by new authors, and the ink is not stone, but choice. To journey through Indonesia is to witness the Earth's foundational processes laid bare. It is a world built by the collision of plates, shaped by the flow of oceans, and populated by the survivors of deep time and long isolation. It is not a relic of the past, a finished museum piece of natural history. It is a portrait of the living present, a planet still breathing smoke, still pushing new land above the waves, still experimenting with the possibilities of life. The volcanoes are not silent. The plates have not stopped moving. The sea has not finished its work. This archipelago remains one of the clearest expressions of a world that is not static or complete, but is constantly, violently, and beautifully remaking itself. and in its existence lies a profound truth: that the ground beneath our feet is not a certainty, but a story, one of fire and sea that is still unfolding. And we have, for the first time in 4.5 billion years, become characters in its telling, with the power to influence the next chapter, not just for ourselves, but for the long, extraordinary story of the Earth itself.